Many people move through life without realizing that not every obstacle is physical. Some battles are invisible, silent, and carefully monitored. There are spiritual eyes that observe, not to protect, not to guide, but to study, delay, and resist progress. These eyes do not sleep. They watch patterns, track movement, and wait for moments of weakness to interfere. You may have sensed it before. That strange feeling that your life is being watched. That every time momentum begins to build, something unseen interrupts it. Plans collapse without explanation. Opportunities come close but never fully land. Relationships that seem promising suddenly fall apart without reason. Finances slip away just as stability appears. This pattern is not coincidence, and it is not imagination. These are monitoring spirits, spiritual observers assigned to study destinies. Their purpose is not random harm but calculated delay. They succeed when they remain hidden. As long as you believe nothing is wrong, they continue their work uninterrupted. When spiritual surveillance is active, life feels like movement without arrival. You run but never reach the finish line. You try, but something always interferes. This constant resistance produces exhaustion, confusion, and frustration. Over time, people begin to blame themselves, unaware that the issue is not effort, intelligence, or ability, but unseen observation. Monitoring spirits function like spiritual informants. They gather information, report progress, and signal when to release opposition. That is why attacks often come right before breakthroughs. Just as something good is about to happen, pressure increases. The enemy does not attack randomly. He attacks what he can see. Imagine living in a house with uncovered windows at night. Anyone outside can observe every movement inside. That is what happens spiritually when monitoring eyes are active. Your plans are visible. Your progress is predictable. Your next move is anticipated. And when the enemy sees clearly, resistance becomes precise. But here is the truth. What the enemy cannot see, he cannot stop. This is why spiritual vision must be guarded. The eyes are not only physical organs, they are spiritual gateways. Scripture calls them the windows of the soul. Whatever has access to your vision has access to your direction, your discernment, and your destiny. When monitoring spirits gain access, clarity is reduced, discernment weakens. You may still see naturally, but spiritually you begin to misjudge situations. You trust the wrong people. You miss warning signs. You walk into traps disguised as opportunities. This is not lack of wisdom. It is spiritual interference. Many families experience the same cycles repeatedly. No one crosses a certain level. Marriages fail at the same stage. Financial growth stops at the same point. Progress is allowed only up to a limit. These are not accidents. These patterns reveal long-standing spiritual surveillance passed from one generation to the next. Monitoring spirits do not work alone. They often use human channels. People who constantly observe but never support. Individuals who appear friendly yet secretly rejoice in setbacks. Sometimes even digital spaces become tools. Those who monitor your progress silently, collecting information without engagement. It is not always the person, it is the spirit operating through access. This is why spiritual entry points must be closed deliberately. One of the most effective ways to shut down monitoring is to reclaim spiritual sight. When your spiritual eyes are restored, you begin to see danger before it arrives. You sense resistance early. You recognize false doors. You perceive opportunities the enemy tried to hide. And most importantly, you become invisible to hostile observation. Spiritual vision restoration does two things at once. It opens your sight to God and blinds the enemy's access to you. When spiritual sight is clear, dreams change, confusion lifts, fear reduces, direction sharpens, peace increases. Many people report that once monitoring is broken, life begins to flow naturally again, without constant struggle. This is why prophetic actions matter. They are not rituals without meaning. They are spiritual statements enforced through faith. They declare boundaries in the unseen realm. They shut windows, close doors, and interrupt surveillance systems assigned against destinies. In the coming part, you will learn a specific prophetic action designed to cleanse spiritual vision and blind monitoring spirits. This action is not dangerous, not mystical, and not superstition. It is symbolic, intentional, and spiritually authoritative when done in faith. But before action comes understanding, you must know this. Your destiny was never meant to be an open book for the enemy. Your path was not designed to be constantly observed, predicted, and resisted. God never intended your life to be lived under surveillance. Freedom begins when vision is reclaimed. And once the enemy can no longer see you clearly, his ability to stop you collapses. Spiritual monitoring rarely begins in obvious ways. It does not always arrive as sudden chaos or visible attack. More often, it slips in quietly through repeated patterns, subtle dreams, emotional disturbances, and familiar cycles that seem impossible to break. This is why many people live under spiritual surveillance for years without realizing it. Dreams are one of the primary gateways. When monitoring spirits gain access, dreams begin to change. You may see yourself running but never arriving. You may repeatedly lose items, miss flights, arrive late, or face blocked paths. Some experience dreams of being chased, observed, naked in public, or stuck in the same location again and again. These are not random images. Dreams are spiritual communication channels. And when hostile watchers gain access, they use dreams to rehearse limitations into the subconscious. What happens in Dr. Eames often manifests in daily life. If your dreams are filled with delay, confusion, and repetition, your waking life often reflects the same patterns. You try harder, yet nothing shifts. You pray, but clarity feels distant. This is not because prayer is failing. It is because vision is being interfered with. Monitoring spirits also work through emotional cycles. Notice how some people are stable until they approach progress. Just when things start moving forward, sudden fear appears. Anxiety rises without explanation. Discouragement shows up aggressively. Old memories resurface. Motivation collapses. These emotional disruptions are not personality flaws. They are spiritual signals designed to slow momentum. The enemy understands timing. He does not attack constantly. He waits for moments of transition. New jobs, new seasons, new relationships, new levels of responsibility. That is when monitoring spirits release emotional pressure. Their goal is not always to stop you completely, but to exhaust you until you stop yourself. Another access point is repetition. When the same type of problem appears at every stage of growth, something deeper is operating. If finances improve but collapse at the same level repeatedly, if relationships fail at the same stage, if favor opens but never settles, this indicates a spiritual ceiling enforced by observation. Monitoring spirits enforce limits by studying history. They observe what stopped you before and attempt to reuse the same strategies. If fear worked once, they bring it again. If distraction succeeded, they repeat it. If delay caused frustration, they return with delay. This is why people often say, "I don't know why this keeps happening to me." It keeps happening because the enemy knows what works. Another subtle doorway is unguarded exposure. Constantly sharing plans, announcing progress too early, revealing spiritual experiences publicly, or explaining breakthroughs before they manifest can increase visibility. While not everyone watching is harmful, spiritual observation does not require permission. It only requires access. This is why wisdom sometimes means silence. Not every move must be announced. Not every victory must be explained. Jesus himself often withdrew from crowds, avoided premature exposure, and spoke in parables. Not because he was afraid, but because timing and visibility matter in the spirit realm. Monitoring spirits thrive on predictability. When your life becomes predictable, same reactions, same emotional responses, same coping methods, the enemy gains advantage. But when your responses change, when your spiritual posture shifts, observation becomes ineffective. This is where spiritual disruption becomes powerful. Once monitoring is detected, the next step is interference reversal. This does not happen through panic, fear, or obsession. It happens through intentional spiritual authority. You do not fight watchers by staring back at them. You blind them by removing axes. Blindness in the spirit realm is not cruelty, it is boundary enforcement. When spiritual eyes assigned against you are blinded, information flow stops. Reports become inaccurate. Attacks lose precision. Resistance becomes random instead of targeted. This is why after certain prayers or prophetic actions, people report confusion in the enemy's camp and sudden peace in their own spirit. Your dreams begin to shift. Sleep becomes restful again. Nightmares reduce. Directional dreams replace chaotic ones. Instead of confusion, you receive instruction. Instead of fear, you experience clarity. This is a sign that monitoring access has been interrupted. But there is something crucial you must understand. Monitoring spirits lose power when you stop responding the same way. If fear was your old response, replace it with calm authority. If panic was your habit, replace it with stillness. If explanation was your pattern, replace it with discretion. Every changed response weakens surveillance. You are not meant to live reacting to unseen eyes. You are meant to walk covered, guarded, and divinely shielded. The Bible describes God as a shield, not just in front, but surrounding. When that covering is active, hostile observation becomes ineffective. In the next part, you will learn why prophetic actions are used to restore spiritual sight and how symbolic obedience carries authority in the unseen realm. We will also reveal why simple elements often carry deep spiritual power. Many believers struggle not because they lack faith, but because they misunderstand how faith is enforced in the spirit realm. Prayer alone is powerful, but when prayer is partnered with prophetic action, authority becomes visible in the unseen world. This is why throughout Scripture, God repeatedly instructed his people to do something, not as superstition, but as obedience that carried spiritual weight. Monitoring spirits understand words, but they respond more strongly to alignment. When a believer takes a prophetic action in faith, it sends a clear signal into the spiritual realm. Authority has shifted. It is no longer a passive hope. It is an active declaration. This is why prophetic actions often mark turning points in spiritual warfare. Consider how God told Moses to stretch his rod, not merely pray. How Elijah poured water on the altar before calling down fire. How Jesus used mud on a blind man's eyes instead of only speaking healing. These actions were not rituals. They were physical demonstrations of spiritual authority. Monitoring spirits lose access when boundaries are enforced physically and spiritually. Prophetic actions work because they engage three realms at once. The spirit realm, where authority is exercised. The physical realm, where obedience is demonstrated. The soul, where faith becomes activated. When these three align, spiritual resistance weakens rapidly. One reason monitoring spirits remain effective is because many people only resist mentally or emotionally. They become frustrated, angry, or fearful, but never authoritative. The enemy is not intimidated by emotion. He responds to authority. Authority is enforced through obedience. When God gives a symbolic instruction and it is carried out in faith, it becomes a legal transaction in the spirit realm. Legal ground is removed, access is revoked, surveillance is interrupted. This is why prophetic actions often feel simple, but their impact is deep. Some people dismiss prophetic acts because they appear too ordinary. Water, oil, salt, touch, movement. These elements seem basic, but the power is not in the element, it is in the obedience attached to God's instruction. Monitoring spirits do not fear objects, they fear alignment. When a believer aligns with divine instruction, it disrupts spiritual systems that depend on disorder. Surveillance thrives on chaos, distraction, and inconsistency. Prophetic obedience introduces order, clarity, and divine structure. Another reason prophetic actions work is because they shift spiritual posture. Instead of waiting passively, you move deliberately. Instead of reacting emotionally, you respond spiritually. Instead of explaining yourself to people, you obey God privately. This posture change alone weakens hostile observation. There is also something powerful about timing. Prophetic actions done at specific moments. Night watches, transition periods, moments of pressure carry increased authority. This is because monitoring spirits are most active during transitions. When you act during these windows, you disrupt their operations at critical points. Blindness in the spirit realm does not mean destruction. It means limitation. When spiritual eyes assigned against you are blinded, they lose clarity, not existence. They cannot track progress. They cannot anticipate moves. They cannot report accurately. This is often enough to collapse resistance entirely. Many people testify that once monitoring is broken, attacks stop suddenly, not gradually. Confusion replaces precision. Peace replaces anxiety. Favor replaces struggle. But prophetic action must be combined with spiritual discipline. You cannot take action once and then live carelessly. Vision protection requires maintenance through prayer, discretion, obedience, and awareness. Once access is removed, it must remain closed. This is why instruction matters. Blind actions without understanding produce temporary results, but actions taken with revelation produce lasting freedom. When you know why you are doing something, your faith becomes firm and your authority stable. In the next part, you will learn how spiritual vision is restored, what happens when the enemy's sight is removed, and how to recognize the signs that surveillance has been broken. These signs are subtle but powerful. One of the clearest signs that monitoring spirits have been disrupted is a sudden change in clarity. Not always around you, but within you. Confusion begins to lift. Decisions feel lighter. Thoughts become calmer. This is because when the enemy loses sight of you, pressure reduces immediately. Spiritual surveillance creates mental noise. Many people think anxiety, overthinking, and constant doubt are personality traits. In reality, they are often symptoms of unseen observation. When something is watching, it presses. When pressure is removed, peace returns. This is why the first evidence of broken surveillance is usually internal, not external. Spiritual vision always returns before visible breakthrough. Before doors open, perception sharpens. You begin to notice patterns you missed before. You sense when to speak and when to stay silent. You feel a check in your spirit before making choices that once led you into trouble. This is not coincidence. It is restored discernment. When watching spirits lose access, your spiritual eyesight becomes active again. You start to see people for who they are, not who they pretend to be. Smiles no longer confuse you. Words no longer deceive you. Intent becomes clearer. And this clarity protects you more than any physical defense ever could. Many believers struggle because they can see physically but are blind spiritually. They move fast but without direction. They work hard but without wisdom. They trust easily but without discernment. Monitoring spirits exploit this blindness by steering people subtly into traps disguised as opportunities. But once your spiritual eyes open, traps lose power. You may notice that certain conversations no longer interest you. Certain environments suddenly feel uncomfortable. Certain people naturally drift away. This is not loss, it is protection. When surveillance ends, unnecessary connections are exposed. Another powerful sign is a shift in dreams. Before, dreams may have been dark, confusing, repetitive, or disturbing. You may have seen eyes, shadows, pursuit, or strange observers. After spiritual vision is restored, dreams become clearer. Messages make sense. Fear reduces. Direction increases. Dreams are a major battlefield for monitoring spirits. They use dreams to observe reactions, create fear, and plant confusion. When access is cut off, their influence in dreams weakens. This is why many people experience peaceful sleep after prophetic actions that address spiritual sight. Rest itself becomes a weapon. When the enemy cannot watch effectively, he cannot plan. When he cannot plan, he cannot time attacks. And when timing fails, operations collapse. This is why rest returns quickly when surveillance ends. Another noticeable sign is restored focus. Distractions decrease. Procrastination weakens. you find yourself completing tasks that were once difficult. This happens because mental interference has been reduced. Monitoring spirits specialize in scattering focus to delay progress. When they lose sight, momentum returns. You may also notice fewer unnecessary conflicts. Arguments that once erupted suddenly stop. Misunderstandings resolve themselves. This is because many conflicts are triggered deliberately to drain emotional energy and gather information. Surveillance thrives on reaction. When reactions reduce, observation loses value. However, it is important to understand that restored vision does not mean the enemy disappears completely. It means he loses advantage. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer easily studied. You are no longer exposed. This is why discretion becomes vital after freedom. Do not announce everything. Do not share every plan. Do not expose every victory prematurely. Wisdom protects vision. Silence guards progress. Jesus himself often withdrew, not because he was weak, but because timing matters. Spiritual sight teaches you when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain quiet. This sensitivity is evidence that your vision is no longer under attack, but vision must be protected intentionally. Just as eyes can be irritated by dust, spiritual sight can be clouded by careless exposure. What you watch, listen to, and meditate on matters. Visual intake affects spiritual clarity. If you flood your mind with chaos, your vision will dull again. This is why maintaining clean spiritual sight requires discipline. Prayer, worship, scripture, and silence sharpen perception. Gossip, negativity, and fear-based content dull it. Monitoring spirits look for openings. They reassign only when access points appear. Emotional wounds, unguarded speech, bitterness, pride, these create visibility. The goal is not perfection, but awareness. Awareness keeps you hidden. As vision returns, you will also notice divine guidance increasing. Ideas come suddenly. Solutions appear unexpectedly. You sense direction without forcing it. This is the benefit of being unseen by the enemy and visible to God. Favor flows best when interference is removed. Many people chase favor without realizing that surveillance blocks it. Once sight is broken, favor no longer leaks. Opportunities stabilize, relationships align, growth becomes consistent. This is why restored vision is more valuable than instant breakthrough. Breakthrough without vision leads back into cycles. Vision without breakthrough prepares you to handle success correctly. God restores sight first, so destiny is not wasted. In the next part, you will learn how to seal this restored vision, how to prevent re-entry, and how to live in a state where monitoring spirits cannot regain access. Breaking spiritual surveillance is powerful, but sealing your freedom is what makes it lasting. Many people experience a breakthrough, feel relief, and then slowly drift back into old cycles. Not because the prophetic action failed, but because what was open was never guarded. Freedom must be maintained intentionally. When monitoring spirits lose sight of you, they do not always retreat permanently. They observe from a distance, waiting for new entry points. This is why sealing your spiritu. Our vision is essential. It closes the door completely and keeps your life hidden under divine covering. The first seal is your words. What you speak after prophetic action matters more than what you spoke before it. Words either reinforce victory or reopen access. Negative confessions such as, "Nothing ever works," "I always struggle," or "I feel stuck again," act like spiritual beacons. They announce your location. Silence is often safer than complaint. After your spiritual sight is cleansed, shift how you speak. Declare clarity even when circumstances are still adjusting. Say, "My path is ordered." Say, "I move with wisdom." These words do not lie, they enforce truth. The second seal is emotional discipline. Strong emotions, especially fear, jealousy, bitterness, and offense, create visibility. Monitoring spirits feed on emotional reactions. When they cannot provoke reaction, they cannot gather information. This is why peace becomes your shield. You may notice situations that once angered you now feel distant. Guard this. Do not chase emotional stimulation. Calmness confuses the enemy. The third seal is controlled exposure. Not everyone needs to know your plans. Not every idea needs to be announced. Destiny grows best in quiet places. Public revelation invites public observation. Even Joseph protected his dreams later after learning from early exposure. Move silently, build quietly, let results speak. The fourth seal is visual hygiene. Your eyes are spiritual doors. What you watch feeds your inner sight. Images filled with fear, lust, chaos, or negativity cloud spiritual perception and reopen windows. Guard what enters your eyes. If your vision was restored through a prophetic act, do not contaminate it with careless consumption. Fill your sight with things that strengthen clarity. Scripture, worship, learning, peace. The fifth seal is consistent prayer language. You do not need long prayers, but you need accurate ones. Short declarations spoken daily reinforce protection. Simple phrases like, my sight is clear, my destiny is hidden, I am unseen by the enemy and guided by God. These statements act as spiritual passwords that maintain invisibility. The sixth seal is gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most underestimated spiritual defenses. It shifts atmosphere instantly. Complaining attracts interference. Thanksgiving invites presence. Monitoring spirits cannot operate comfortably where gratitude dominates. A thankful heart stays covered. The seventh seal is environmental cleansing. Your home matters. Surveillance often operates through physical spaces. Pray in your rooms. Anoint doors and windows. Declare your space restricted. Your environment should agree with your vision. Chaos invites observation. Order enforces authority. The eighth seal is community alignment. Isolation weakens protection. Not everyone should be close, but someone should be trusted. Spiritual covering multiplies defense. When others pray with you, visibility reduces further. The ninth seal is obedience to timing. Do not rush. Do not delay. Timing preserves vision. Many people lose protection by moving prematurely. Wait until clarity confirms movement. The 10th and final seal is consistency. One prophetic action can break access, but consistent alignment keeps it broken. You may repeat the eye-washing action when led, but more importantly, repeat the lifestyle that supports it. Freedom is not an event, it is a posture. If you feel pressure return, do not panic. Pressure does not mean failure. It means reinforcement is needed. Reinforcement strengthens victory. You are not hiding in fear. You are hidden in wisdom. The goal is not invisibility from life, but invisibility from harm. You are still visible to favor, opportunity, and divine instruction. In the next and final part, you will learn how to walk forward boldly without fear, how to recognize permanent signs that surveillance is broken, and how to turn your freedom into a testimony that protects others. Now that your spiritual sight has been cleansed and sealed, the final stage begins, learning how to walk forward without fear, hesitation, or spiritual exposure. Many people are delivered but still live like they are being watched. Freedom is not complete until your mindset, movement, and expectations align with your new spiritual position. This part is about walking boldly while remaining hidden. When monitoring spirits are blinded, something very important happens in the spirit realm. Their reports stop. No information means no strategy. No strategy means no effective attack. That is why, after true spiritual cleansing, opposition suddenly becomes disorganized, delayed, or ineffective. You may still face challenges, but they will no longer feel targeted. That is one of the clearest signs that surveillance has been broken. Another sign is internal peace. Not temporary calm, but deep stability. You stop overthinking. You stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You stop feeling watched when you are alone. Your mind feels quieter. Peace is evidence of invisibility. A third sign is momentum. Things begin to move without struggle. Calls come back. Doors open naturally. Problems resolve without drama. You may not even realize at first that life has shifted, but suddenly, things flow. Flow means obstruction has been removed. A fourth sign is discernment without suspicion. You can sense danger without fear. You notice red flags early, but you are not paranoid. This balance is only possible when spiritual sight is clear. Fear blinds. Discernment illuminates. Now, it is important to understand something crucial. Walking unseen does not mean living passively. You are not hiding from life. You are advancing undercover. Think of it like moving through fog while others are exposed under bright lights. You are protected but still progressing. At this stage, many people make one mistake. They go silent in faith. They stop praying because things feel better. This is dangerous. Do not abandon maintenance because relief arrived. Instead, shift your prayers. Less warfare, more direction, less defense, more strategy. Ask questions like, God, what should I build now? Where should I focus my energy? What opportunities are meant for me? When surveillance ends, construction begins. This is the season to build quietly, grow privately, strengthen foundations. Monitoring spirits hate hidden growth because they cannot sabotage what they cannot track. Do not announce everything. Let fruit speak. Another key principle now is obedience to inner nudges. With restored sight, guidance becomes sharper. If you feel a gentle check to avoid a place, a conversation, or a decision, listen. Disobedience reopens exposure. Clarity requires cooperation. Your dreams may also change. Instead of being chased, watched, or confused, you may see symbols of roads, light, elevation, or instruction. This is a sign that spiritual communication has been restored. Dreams are safer when watchers are gone. You may also notice certain people drifting away naturally. This is not loss, it is pruning. Some connections existed only as observation points. When access closes, interest fades. Do not chase what leaves. Now let us talk about turning freedom into permanence. Freedom becomes permanent when it becomes your testimony. When you acknowledge what God has done, gratitude locks it in place. Speak it out. Write it down. Share wisely. Testimony is not noise, it is sealing, but share with discernment. Not everyone deserves access to your story. Another powerful step is covering your family. Once you are hidden, extend that covering. Pray for your household. Declare clarity over your children, spouse, parents. Surveillance often moves through family lines, but it can also end there. One person's freedom can shield many. Now understand this truth clearly. You are not fighting for victory anymore. You are enforcing it. The war was won. Your role is alignment. Do not beg. Decree. Do not fear. Stand. Do not explain. Advance. If pressure ever attempts to return, respond immediately. Not emotionally, but spiritually. Reaffirm your declarations. Repeat the prophetic action if led. Authority works when used. Remember, confidence is invisible armor. As you move forward, choose light environments, places that nourish your spirit, people who speak life, content that sharpens clarity. Darkness is curious, light is protected. Finally, commit to ongoing spiritual hygiene. Just as you wash your body regularly, cleanse your vision daily with prayer. Simple words are enough. My sight is clear, my path is hidden, my destiny is protected. These are not wishes, they are spiritual facts. You are no longer a target, you are covered. No longer observed, you are hidden. No longer delayed, you are advancing. This teaching is not meant to create fear of the unseen world, but mastery over it. You now understand what many never realize, that vision is power, and protecting it protects everything. You have stepped out of spiritual surveillance and into divine covering. Walk calmly. Move wisely, build quietly, and watch how life unfolds without resistance. If you stay aligned, the enemy will never find you again, because what cannot be seen cannot be stopped.